ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So I have a little story before we start our podcast.
Does it involve teeth?
No root canals this week.
Excellent.
I think I have one scheduled next week, though.
Something to look forward to.
This is a much nicer story.
Oh, good.
Actually, yeah. So my daughter, who I've been very open about her learning challenges, and over the years, she struggles with attention issues and some learning issues. And when we first moved here from Canada, the education system was so different. And she just really struggled to catch on. So I think it was like second grade. They wanted to hold her back a year, and we wouldn't let them. Said no, she needs to. We wanted her to move forward, and then we had her diagnosed with her attention issues, and got some therapy for that. It took a couple of years to iron out, for her to get used to things. So. But the teachers weren't really they weren't really interested in, if she wasn't doing what the other kids were doing or learning the way that the other kids were learning, they just really weren't interested in her progress. And so she ended up in a lot of, I don't want to say remedial classes, but because that sounds really bad, but just classes where that, the groupings of the kids were based on ability level. So that kind of prevailed through her elementary years, and then she was able to break out of it during her middle school years. And anyway, so she just kind of has always struggled with her confidence in terms of academics and just being seen differently by teachers, and so the typical kind of effects that you would expect from an early negative experience with school.
Right.
Anyway, so to make a long story short, she decided that she wanted to write the SAT at the beginning of March and during the school year, which they do it so differently now, and the results come back so quickly, and so there's a lot of different sittings through the school year. And we said, "Are you sure you want to, add the stress of studying on top of all of the things that you're doing?" And yep, she wanted to do it, and she got some accommodations. So if anybody's listening, parents with students who have learning issues, please make sure you get those accommodations in place for your child, because they will help when it comes time to writing the SAT. And so she had some extended learning time extended test time and some other accommodations. And but she came home and she just felt super, super bad about the whole thing. And we said, look, you can just redo it, right? You have more opportunities to do it. Anyway, so scores came in last night, 2 a.m., to make a long story short.
Oh, wow.
And she hit that SAT out of the ballpark.
Yay!
So she slayed it. And we are talking like really slayed it. So she is now shifted from looking at, kind of, typical colleges, and she's bumped up into the top tier reams. So we are so excited about it. And and she just, she is all her. She did it. She
great.
pulled through. So she's really excited. So I think she's actually
congratulations.
Yeah. Well, but now,
now she can go to a much more expensive school and have huge amounts of stress. Awesome.
I was just going to say, it's great that she got into this top tier, this next level of school, but that's going to come at a cost.
It's what we call mixed blessings, but for her self-esteem, that's awesome.
Yeah. But for her self-esteem, man, that is exactly what she needed. And even up until when she was, she has really good friends, but there's a couple of them that were a little bit shady around the whole SAT thing. And, and for us, as Canadians, we don't write the SAT, so it's not ingrained in our culture, and it's not as it's not as meaningful, I guess you would say. So we kind of also took it pretty with a lax attitude, okay, well, if you do great, you do great. If you don't, You can go to Canada.
Safety country.
Anyway, so she had that attitude as well. But so yeah, no, she pulled it off. It was great. It's beyond. So we're just so happy, and so I've been up since like 2 a.m.
That is so exciting.
And so I've got to wake up here because we have a podcast to do. And
yes. And although we may have discussed this topic in the past and said that parents shouldn't brag on their kids' SAT scores, we totally weren't talking about you.
You were not. And I didn't say what score it was. I just said.
That's right. You were being very circumspect.
I just said she slayed it. And I am proud to brag about it because
absolutely,
that kid deserves it, man.
Well deserved, as we discussed, all the work then and angst that went into that.
Oh my Lord.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and just, it's another comment on parents don't, what your teacher says about your student and their test scores does not define them.
Right.
And that's kind of the other message I wanted to share as well. So.
Well, give her a hug from us. That's excellent.
Yeah,
our ukulele player makes good.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll be hearing a little bit of her work a little later in this podcast.
That is correct. So we'll get started with the podcast. So yes. You've let me brag about my daughter. Hello, and welcome to the Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, and complaining about right now, or celebrating. Yay!
Yay!
I'm Nicole Erdix, and with me today are Catherine Haleko.
Hi.
And Terri Mauro.
Hello.
And on the podcast today, we are going to talk about not so fond memories on our speed round, shout out some stuff we like on the Roundabout Roundup, and do some shameless self-promotion. But first, what values are you teaching your kids and why? Catherine, over to you.
Nicole is speechless. We turn it over to Catherine.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is a tough one. I mean, you need to
go in deep.
Think about it. Yeah. I think, but we started wondering, what values are important for you to instill in your children, and how's that going for you?
Or not.
For me, I guess the first one that kind of popped into my mind was respect, because I interpret that to mean, respecting yourself and other people. And if you can do both of those things, I think it takes you a long way. I don't want to be the parent that other parents or teachers are complaining about, why didn't they teach their kid not to do X or Y or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. And as a good umbrella, I think respectfulness is pretty high up there. But I'm sure that when you guys say some other things, I'll think, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So, Terri, what do you have in mind?
Well, it's tricky because, yes, respect, of course, but if somebody is behaving towards you in an abusive way who is in a leadership position, you don't have to respect that. You have to come tell me.
Right. Well, that's why I said respect for yourself.
With kids with special needs, sometimes that's really difficult. It's like, be respectful and do everything this person says, unless it's some undefined thing that I don't want to put into your brain that might happen to you, in which case you should tell me. So it's like, I don't want to lean on that one too much. And honesty is another one. Honesty is very important, but that doesn't mean that you have to go out and tell everybody things that are not needful to be stated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you have to shade honesty a little bit. So I have a lot of trouble with that. One thing, I don't know if this counts under values as a topic, but value of money is something I do try very hard to instill. Mm-hmm. And, just to know that just because your friend has the newest iPhone doesn't mean you get the newest iPhone. And just because you have some money in your bank account doesn't mean you buy everything you ever wanted right now. Right. I'm trying to teach, delayed gratification.
Yeah. And not entitled. Non-entitlement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm,
and we have, friends who we see going out and doing a lot of stuff on Facebook and saying amongst, my kids and I that That seems really expensive, all the stuff they're doing. How do they do that? Well, trying to be respectful of it, but it's hard, and you really feel like Scrooge when you're saying, don't buy that now. I try to put my daughter on a budget, and it feels mean sometimes because really it's her money and she should be able to do whatever she wants with it, and that's a lesson in and of itself. But at the same time, I feel it's so important to learn how to not get everything you want at the very moment you want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something, especially with my daughter, I've worked on. My son doesn't really seem to want that much stuff, so I have to find something else to work on with him.
Right.
But, and we do try to instill religious values, although I don't know how well that's translating over to kids who are very literal minded due to their disabilities, but we drag them to church anyway. So at least they know the value of doing things because it's important to your mom and dad.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing to learn.
No.
Sometimes you will have to sacrifice your own momentary enjoyment because somebody that you love wants you to do something different. So goodness knows parents do that a lot for their kids.
Heck
Sometimes
yeah.
you get to have their voice in your head. I shouldn't do that.
How about you, Nicole? What are some that you've been thinking about or trying to work on?
Well, I guess in reference to our latest news, definitely working, hard, working to your, as well as you can, and not, slacking off. And it not because you don't want to, but because you don't want, because of attitudes and such, right? So I guess it's having the right attitude, maybe, which is something that I struggle with. But
attitude is really important and really hard.
But just going that extra mile, going that extra step, I think is what I want to say. So doing that extra credit, or adding that extra sentence, or just fine-tuning it a little bit more, I think has been really kind of help a value that we've talked a lot about with our kids. And of course, what Catherine was saying, the whole concept of respect and being respectful of others, and particularly of others' belief systems and opinions, and not, I think that's a big thing too for us, is just being mindful of, what other people are going through and how they're dealing with life.
Yeah.
And being respectful of that. And also to, taking the opportunity when you can, grabbing life and taking the opportunity when you can. And obviously that's a big theme in our world. So,
right.
Doing what you can
and sticking with, we've talked about sticking with things, and whether, when to know that you should stick with something and when to know that it's time to look for something else.
Yeah.
That's a hard distinction to make, especially, for my kids, but I think it's an important one, and one that I've certainly benefited from in my life.
Yeah. And I think, in terms of benefiting from or it affecting you, I think, that whole concept of just taking the opportunity when it comes up, and taking that chance, and taking a little bit of risk, a calculated risk, or sometimes a risk that you're not sure, but it's going to it's for the betterment of you and the people around you, right?
Right.
So
but also, and also not being afraid to say, you know what, this didn't work.
Right.
It's not anything that's wrong with me. It's just a situation that wasn't right. Let me go look for something better.
Right. Yeah. I tried it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I tried it. I gave it a good chance. It's not for me. I didn't give up, but I don't have to flog myself by doing something that makes me unhappy forever.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I guess that would be more of, I tried it, and whether it worked out or not, at least I tried it.
Perseverance, but also flexibility.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, it's definitely, and there's some of these things that, I intentionally set out to teach as a parent, and then some, of course, are just intrinsic, and, you model in your own behavior. But, And then some you unintentionally teach and you think, uh-oh.
Yeah, you see your kid do a thing and you go, I'm going to have to talk about that. How am I going to do that?
Yeah. Or,
That's
in the
hard.
case of honesty, like, okay, because I know, like, my daughter's very literal. She could be a little too...
That's hard.
Yeah, like a little too honest sometimes. It's like, okay, you could rephrase that in a kinder way. Be respectful.
There you go.
Other people feel.
Falls under the respect umbrella and kindness.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Definitely kindness.
Yeah, I feel like, as in so many things, I don't necessarily set out to do anything.
Yeah.
And then later it's like, oh, we should probably work on this, or or I'm glad that this worked out the way it did, or something.
Yeah.
It's hard. Because, when kids are very little, it's like, let's just keep them alive and let's just, get them let's help them learn how to sleep through the night, or, use the toilet or whatever it is. Going beyond that feels insurmountable at times.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't it? Yeah, it feels so easy to make mistakes and to not model the values you wish to teach, because they're hard, man.
Yeah. They are.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a big responsibility to like instill values in another human being.
Yes.
And to constantly...
Well, and especially if you don't know if you're doing a good job of it yourself.
That's right. Like, exactly. So do a better job at this than I did. But then...
Well, and also because it takes years and years to do it and to know if it's working, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, like Nicole's example with the SATs, this is something that they've been working on for a decade.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's like you don't see the immediate results.
Yeah.
So I guess,
Yeah,
definitely.
Doing something, even if no one is watching or if it doesn't count at that moment.
Right.
It's still doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and then
even when your mother isn't watching.
When you're a mother, you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
Then you have a situation sometimes if your kids do adapt good values and act upon them, and then they get taken advantage of or made fun of, or, have encounters with people who don't have the same values. It can be very difficult. And some part of you wants to say, oh, just do all the things they're doing just to show them or to fit in or whatever. It's, you don't want to tell your kid to do that, but it's also hard to see them suffer because of it. I always tell my kids in situations like that, tell them your mother said you had to do it this way. Blame it on me. Lay it on me.
Yeah.
Don't take the social cost of it upon yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think they do. I tell my husband that too.
That's what I'm here for.
My shoulders are broad.
Yeah. I'll take one for the team.
Exactly.
No kidding.
Well, perhaps teaching values in times when it is difficult to do so, or when your child doesn't understand, or your child has a hard time enacting them. Maybe that's one of the things we don't miss from when our kids were younger.
Yeah.
They're now that they're older, they're working on this stuff. It's all working out okay, right? You don't have to worry about your kid going in and saying something inappropriate or about your son going in and repeating to the paraprofessional all the things his mother said about her when she was angry, because that's honest and I guess respectful. Here, I don't want you. We're talking about you behind your back. I think it's better that you know.
I think we better bring it right out in the open for everyone to hear.
I never got back onto even footing with that aide again. And she was nice, and she lives around the corner from me, and she still resents me.
No. Really?
And I probably would feel the same. I mean, he did the same thing. He brought stuff home, too. So It's like that honesty thing, honey, forget everything I said about that. I never want to hear what happens in your classroom. I never want you telling them. But anyway, for our speed round today, we thought we would talk about some of the things that we do not miss from when our kids were little. Catherine, do you have some things in mind that you do not miss?
Well, besides the obvious one for me, which is being woken up at night, being unable to sleep through the night, which was years and years for me. Like, neither of my kids were sleepers at all. And I'm sorry if you can hear howling and barking right now.
This is our dog interlude.
I definitely don't miss from when we first got the dogs and I had to stand outside in the yard with them for hours waiting for them to poop. But anyway, in terms of the kids, I definitely don't miss the sleepless nights for sure. But the thing that prompted me to ask this question was I was at the Y the other day taking a yoga class, and as I was leaving, I saw all the parents sitting in chairs by the pool where their little ones were taking swim lessons. And man, did I really not like dealing with swimming lessons. Like the slippery children who don't want to be there, the gross locker rooms, like when they're really little and you have to get in the pool, or if you don't have to get in the pool, then you have to sit on the side sweating to death because it's so humid.
Oh no.
And I just really didn't like any of it. And it was, one of those things like, well, they have to learn how to swim so they don't die, but God, I did not like it. I did not like it. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that anymore.
I hear ya.
Although my neighbor takes her grandchildren to swimming lessons.
Wow.
So I'm going to ask my children right now, like, please don't make me do that. I can't handle it.
That's your job.
And more than one, like, not just one kid. She takes multiple kids at a time.
Wow.
It's impressive. But
she digs it.
Anyway, what else? What do you not miss from those days?
I do not miss carting around the 10 pieces of hand luggage required to go to the grocery store. Like, the diaper bag and the stroller and the this and the that and the bottle and the food and oh my Lord, I just love being able to just get up and walk out of my house. I have a really close friend, and bless her heart, she fosters infants who are medically fragile.
Wow.
She's a nurse, so she has the skills to do that. But she has a constant rotation of, sadly, I mean, this is not a good thing because unfortunately they were born with issues, but she has a constant rotation of babies in her house. And I love spending time with her and helping her. But oh man, when she wants to go out for coffee or go to the mall, I dread it. I know.
Like, I will stop at Starbucks on my way. Just come to you.
Oh my gosh, I do not miss the whole and getting them in the car seat and getting them out of the car seat and no.
Watching them chew on the handle of the shopping cart.
I know, and they didn't have those fabric inserts now that they have for kids.
Yeah.
You know how they have those those blanket things that go in the shopping cart?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have that when my kids were younger. I didn't see them, but so it was just always just gross. or if you take them in this, because it was always a decision, right? You're like, should I just keep them in the stroller and try and just get as little, as minimal amount of groceries as possible to get us through the week because I can't fit them all in the stroller as I go through the grocery store? Or do I put them in the car and then get a big load of groceries? Like, it was always this toss-up of,
and then
how am I going to do
they
it?
have the carts that are like the little car,
right?
Yeah.
And my kids, of course, they would always want the car, but you can barely move it. It's so big and heavy and you can't steer it. And you just want to get in and out. But now we got to drive the car all over the supermarket. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah. And then they're standing up and then they're sitting down. And, it's not fun. I do not miss that at all.
How about you, Terri?
I don't know. I honestly kind of miss that stuff.
Yeah.
I was, it's, over now that he's an adult, but for a long time I missed diapers with my son because the alternative was sending him into some gross restroom, and what was he going to touch?
Yeah.
Even if he went in with me, there's just so many surfaces, and this is a kid who puts his hands in his mouth all the time, so it's like, you know, back when he was in diapers, I didn't have to deal with this. I could control him. He would be in his stroller, and then he would be on a table, and I would hold him down. And it was also a lot of nice, like, one-on-one time between the two of us, eye to eye. I would talk to him and sing to him, and I kind of missed that. I never had that diaper time with my daughter because by the time we adopted her, she was toilet trained. But, you know, there was a lot. I enjoyed the control involved in that, and that I could do things sort of when it was convenient. Whereas if a kid has to go to the bathroom, you have to find some way to facilitate that immediately. And even now that he's an adult, when he goes off to the men's room by himself, I'm, you know, reviewing newspaper headlines in my head until he gets back. So, you know, and the diaper bag, while bulky, I could bring, it fits so much stuff, you know? I would always have all these toys. I would have toys. I have all sorts of things to amuse my kids. And when you have the stroller in the mall, you can hang your bags off it.
But unless you put too many bags and the whole stroller tips over backwards.
And it tips over. That's true. We had a pretty heavy stroller.
That's right.
We had that 2-seater stroller, man. If I could get it out of the car, I was pretty much set. Here, kids, let me pile packages on top of you. You mind? Oh, my son had a great little umbrella stroller, and I could just whip that thing out and put him in it in no time, and it was great. He could see everything, and I didn't have to worry about where he was and what he was touching. It was awesome. But I do kind of something I don't miss too much is when they were little, my kids needed to be pretty much constantly entertained. They didn't have a lot of self-amusement skills. And I don't know, I mean, in the orphanage they must have, but I mean, my son basically just sat in a playpen all day. Yeah. that was his activity. So I think once they came out into the wider world full of things to do, they wanted to do them, but they didn't necessarily know how. Yeah. So every game I had to play, every doll I had to play with, every car I had to play with. I had to lay on the floor and watch the cars get lined up and play highway and stuff. And some of that I really enjoy, and I'm sorry we don't still have things that we do together. And some of it, oh my gosh, can we just stop? I could not do anything. I had to constantly be the cruise director. Yeah. So that I would like some happy medium space between then and now. Yeah. Closer to now, you know, maybe like 15 minutes a day where we have that interaction. And we can all go back to our screens and leave each other alone.
Candyland or something.
That's right. You hate Candyland.
Candyland, it served its purpose, though, because it's a game that kids without a lot of skills in anything can play. You know, it teaches colors. So, but yes, after the 500th time, you do sort of just want to, you know, go eat all the candy and slip into a sugar coma.
No, it was when the kids asked to play the game of life.
Oh, boy. I don't think we ever had that. I don't think we ever got there.
Well, somebody gave my kids like a junior version of it, and it was Bart Simpson. It was Bart Simpson junior version. I'm not sure how Bart Simpson is appropriate for young kids, but and my son was like fascinated with it, but you know, it was still painful. It was painfully long.
All the pain of regular life now with Bart Simpson.
Oh, I remember I used, in more recent times, I used to always play Uno with my son, and then I got very busy and I stopped doing it. Now he will not let me play with him. No, that's okay. He plays with himself. No. So it's like, you know, please play Cats in the Cradle in the background and I'll just go crawl into a dark room. Think about what a bad mother I am.
Dear. But I often think of that song too. So bad.
I think that and Sunrise Sunset. I could make my mom cry at any given time just by humming Sunrise Sunset. So.
Wow.
Quickly fly the days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and quickly fly our speed rounds. Maybe not so quickly this time. That's it for our speed round today. And remember, you can hear a new speed round every Wednesday through Friday.
Hi, we hope you're enjoying this episode of Parenting Roundabout. We're not one of those podcasts that's trying to sell you websites or mattresses or meal kits. I mean, we totally would but no one's asked us yet.
There is, however, something you can do that costs you nothing, but will put a little change in our pockets. Listen to our podcast on the Radio Public app. Download the app to your iPhone or Android device and listen to Parenting Roundabout there, and we'll get paid for each listen. Plus a little more if you listen a lot.
We think you'll enjoy listening to all your podcasts on this app, but if you could at least listen to Parenting Roundabout there, we'd be very grateful. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, so now we move on and want to bring you some of the things that we've read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you. Catherine.
Yeah, well, speaking of SATs, the other day, it'll be a week old by the time you hear this, but there was an essay in the New York Times in the Sunday opinion section, and it was by Elizabeth Egan, and it's called "Stop Asking About My Kids' College Plans." And it was, a little bit funny and a little bit sweet, and just like, how kids get to their junior year, or it's already happening, I think, for my child who's a sophomore, and it's all anybody can talk about, and it's a lot, it's too much sometimes, and it's too much pressure on the kid, it's too much pressure on the parent, and we should be more sensitive to how sort of fragile everyone is at this moment. So I just thought it was well done, and it definitely resonated with me. So we will have a link to that.
Yeah.
Very good. How about you, Terri?
Not to belabor this topic any, but last week for the Roundabout Roundup, Catherine mentioned the many wonderful Hamel drops, and Nicole expressed some disinterest in the topic of Hamilton that, Catherine and I cannot just let lie. We're going to just have to needle you about it forever. So your concern, Nicole, was that you did not know anything about U.S. history.
Right.
And knowing that the show is now playing to, I believe, a great deal of success in London, where they also don't study American history, or our end of American history anyway. I Googled a little and found an article from The Telegraph from January 2018 that kind of gives a little primer on Hamilton and this part of American history to people who really have no idea who any of these people are. So if they can enjoy it, I would think that a Canadian such as yourself probably could also just pick up enough important things. Probably. I mean, I wouldn't say that you have to go spend, $500 to get tickets. Is it still in Los Angeles now?
That's a good question. I don't think it is.
But the cast album is just crazy catchy. I think that it's got all different styles of music. Wow. It's not just like Broadway style stuff. It's
musicals and I just do not go hand in hand.
Rap and hip hop and R&B and pop. It's got all sorts of good stuff. I bet you could find a song you like on it. So, if anybody else out there is thinking, gee, I'd love to jump on this enormous bandwagon that is Hamilton, like, 3/4 of the other people in the world have, but I don't know anything about American history, you can follow this link and find out a little bit. And there's also a very cute thing of the London cast warming up by singing Judi Dench, Judi Dench, Judi Dench, Dench. I can't even do it, but it's very cute. Nicole, what do you have?
Actually, this is kind of cool. It's just an article or a little piece that I came across. As you know, in my other life, I am a big advocate for inclusion of people with disabilities. And I was just reading that Apple is proposing to include 13 disability emojis.
Those are very cool. I've seen those.
Yeah, so on their emoji selections. So, hey, it's about time. Yay. So that's kind of really cool. So there's an article on Mashable that, or a little video that kind of describes what exactly they're thinking of. And it looks like there's a wide range of disabilities that they're going to include. So that's great. Congratulations, Apple.
Yeah.
Happy to see that.
That is it for our Roundabout Roundup. And now for our final segment today, we're going to do a little shameless self-promotion and direct you to some things on our sites that we think you should take a look at. Nicole, what do you have today?
Well, I know everybody's heard it before, but I just finished doing a webinar for EdWeb, and about including students with disabilities in the classroom, and it went over very well, and I was very happy with it and thankful that I was asked to do it. So it's up on EdWeb, so whether you're an educator or a parent interested in education of students with disabilities, check it out, because I think you might learn a few things.
How about you, Catherine? What do you have today?
Well, as promised last week, I said that there would be some new things coming up on highlights, and indeed, they have published. A couple of months ago, I mentioned I did some stories on executive function, and I did kind of a series, and the last installment is up now. It's called 5 Essential Skills Kids Need to Shine, and that is the older kid, school-age kid edition of the series on executive function. So
perfect.
That is now available over on Highlights Parents.
And I just want to mention that I have a Facebook page, Terri Mauro on Parenting Special Needs, that I've been posting some things on there. If you've enjoyed my many rants about my kids not being able to get jobs, I had one there that got some comments that made me feel not alone. And so you might want to take a look over there if you've got some questions. You can ask me you can message me there, and feel free to comment on the things that I post, and let's all help each other feel not so alone in this stuff. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on Radio Public or download them from Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe so that you get all of our podcasts and mini podcasts.
You can also follow us on Twitter, where I am at Nicole Erdix, Catherine is at CHaleko, and Terri is at Momitude. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat, and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram too.
Best of all, stop by our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com and read recaps, find links on everything we've mentioned, and talk back in the comments. Thanks to John Morin at johnjmorin.com for providing our in and out music. And I wish everyone a great week.